You think you're helping your garden, heading out in the quiet of the evening with your watering can. You feel the satisfaction of providing for your plants. But with every gentle drop you sprinkle onto the soil's surface, you might be sentencing your prized tomatoes and peonies to a slow, silent death. This unseen damage begins below the ground, in a place where good intentions can unfortunately cause irreversible harm. It's not about the obvious villains we're trained to fight, not the blistering 95-degree heat of a July heat wave, or the aphids that suddenly colonize your prize-winning roses. The real killer is far more subtle, an error in judgment born from a desire to nurture. It is a fundamental mistake that, according to university horticultural extension programs, a staggering percent of gardeners make, sabotaging their own success without ever realizing it. We've all witnessed the heartbreaking evidence, the telltale yellowing between the veins of a cucumber leaf, a condition known as chlorosis, or the drooping stems of a once vibrant sunflower. A plant you nurtured from a tiny seed that you poured your heart and hopes into for 3 months is now visibly. It's a frustrating mystery that often leaves gardeners blaming the soil, the sun, or their own lack of a green thumb. This common mistake creates a hidden and dangerous dependency. Because a steady supply of water is always available in the top inch of soil, the roots have no biological incentive to push deeper. They become a lazy, shallow mat of fragile, weak threads just beneath the surface, completely unprepared for any real stress and unable to access the nutrient-rich layers of the deeper subsoil where true resilience is born. It masquerades as diligent care. It looks like you're doing everything right. You're out there every evening at 6 p.m., giving each plant a gentle shower, making sure no one is thirsty. But this very routine is causing the damage, happening silently. 3 inches below the mulch, the soil is becoming compacted and starved of oxygen, creating the perfect conditions for the fungal diseases that lead to root rot. The secret to a healthy garden isn't an asterisk how much asterisk water you give, measured in gallons or minutes. That's a flawed metric. The crucial factor is a completely different measurement, depth of penetration that a plant's ancient biology dictates. For millions of years, plants evolved to survive the pattern of infrequent but deep-soaking natural rains, a cycle that a daily artificial sprinkle completely fails to replicate, confusing the plant's most basic instincts. The mistake is specifically that daily 5-minute sprinkle from the hose nozzle is a death sentence delivered with the best of intentions. This routine actively teaches roots to stay near the top because the plant's hormonal signals, which govern root growth, are telling it that the only reliable source of moisture is right at the surface. It's a lesson that leads directly to fragility and failure. In stark contrast, a healthy plant's root system is a subterranean marvel, a deep, sprawling network that anchors it firmly and seeks out moisture and nutrients far below the surface. A single healthy tomato plant, for example, can send roots down more than 3 feet. This vast hidden half of the plant is its true lifeline, a resilient reservoir that insulates it from the temporary stresses of heat and drought. Imagine being desperately thirsty, but the only water available is a fleeting, unreliable surface-level sip that appears for a few minutes each day. You would adapt by staying right at the surface, waiting for that next small handout. You'd by expending the energy to dig a well because your immediate needs are always just barely being met. This is the precarious existence we force upon our plants. So, how do you reverse this damage and fix the problem? You need to stop thinking like a caretaker and start thinking like the weather. You need to mimic nature's effective cycle of drenching and drying. This approach encourages the roots to do what they are biologically programmed to do, to explore downward, to forage deep into the soil profile in search of the life-sustaining moisture stored there. The solution is a technique called deep watering. It isn't complicated or expensive. It's a simple change in timing and volume that completely rewires your garden's subterranean foundation. Instead of a little water daily, you provide a large volume of water once every 5 to 10 days, forcing the plant to build the deep, resilient root structure it needs to truly flourish. Without this deep root structure, the first real challenge proves catastrophic. The first unexpected heat wave that bakes the top 2 inches of soil, the first weekend you go away and miss a watering day, and your shallow-rooted plants, with no access to deeper moisture reserves, their leaves wilt dramatically as their internal water pressure, or turgor, plummets in a matter of hours. Through a daily routine of surface-level care, you've accidentally trained your plants to be fragile dependents. They have resilience to environmental stress because their roots never received the necessary signals to become self-sufficient explorers. They have been conditioned to expect a handout, leaving them completely unprepared for any day when that handout doesn't arrive, whether due to a busy schedule or a municipal water restriction. Deep watering, however, fundamentally changes this dynamic. As the top layer of soil dries out over several days, it forces roots downward in a process called hydrotropism, compelling them to follow the receding moisture deep into the earth. This creates a strong, drought-resistant anchor that can tap into subterranean reservoirs and survive almost anything the summer weather can throw at it, from high winds to forgotten weekends. This is how you build a garden that doesn't just struggle to survive, it actively. It's how you create a resilient, low-maintenance ecosystem that works with you, not against you. A thriving garden shows vigorous growth, produces more flowers and fruit, and exhibits a natural resistance to pests and diseases because its foundational needs are being met from deep within the soil. So, what's the practical rule to follow? Forget the arbitrary goal of watering a little every day. Instead, adopt the mantra of watering deeply but far less often. For a typical garden bed, this might mean using a soaker hose on low for 2 hours just once a week, rather than spraying for 10 minutes every single evening. The goal is saturation, not a superficial sprinkle. This change feels wrong at first, I know. We've been culturally conditioned to believe that daily care is the best care, like feeding a pet, but a plant's physiology is entirely different. They don't operate on a human schedule. They play by ones dictated by an evolutionary history of boom and bust rainfall cycles that reward deep-rooted resilience, not surface-level dependency. Therefore, you must learn to ignore the calendar and don't trust a rigid schedule. Instead, trust the soil itself, which provides direct, honest feedback. Use the ancient gardener's trick that has been passed down for centuries because it works flawlessly: the simple, tactile. This method directly measures the conditions your plant's roots are actually experiencing, which no schedule can do. The technique is foolproof. Simply push your index finger into the soil a few inches from the plant's stem, all the way up to your second knuckle. If the soil at your fingertip feels cool and moist, there is still plenty of water in the root zone. If it feels dry and doesn't cling to your skin, it's finally time to water. If it's damp, it's that simple. A rigid watering schedule, every Wednesday and Saturday, is blind to reality. It doesn't know that it rained for an hour on Tuesday, or that a week of cool, overcast weather has dramatically slowed evaporation. Following a schedule is the fastest way to overwater, filling the soil's vital air pockets and literally causing your plant's roots to drown, creating the perfect conditions for fatal root rot diseases. When you do determine it's time to water, do it slowly and thoroughly. Use a drip line or a hose turned to a mere trickle. Applying water too quickly causes it to run off the surface instead of soaking in. The goal is to moisten the soil to a depth of at least 2 inches down, ensuring you reach the entire root zone of most vegetables and perennials. And what about plants in containers? For them, the mistake of shallow watering is even worse and far more common. A quick splash of water will only wet the top layer, leaving large dry pockets in the middle and at the bottom of the pot. The roots in these arid zones will wither, and even while the soil at the very top appears perfectly moist. For all potted plants, the rule is to water thoroughly until it from the holes in the bottom. This is the only way to guarantee that every cubic inch of the soil has been completely saturated. As a crucial bonus, this practice of flushing the pot with water also carries away the excess mineral salts from fertilizers that accumulate over time and can become toxic to the roots. Don't feel bad about any past mistakes you may have made. Every single gardener, from the novice to the professional, has been there and has killed plants with kindness. This is not a static hobby. It is a journey of learning and listening to the subtle language of your plants. Understanding their true needs, rather than imposing our own assumptions, is the most important skill you can develop. The physical transformation that follows this one simple change is incredible, and it happens quickly. Within just a few weeks of switching to a deep watering routine, you'll see more vibrant, deep green leaves, stronger and more upright stems, and plants that remain vigorous and perky even on the hottest afternoons. They will have moved from a state of constant, low-level stress to one of robust health. Think of those old, magnificent gardens that seem to effortlessly care for themselves, like a 100-year-old rose bush at an abandoned farmhouse. Their secret is not magic, it is time. They are all built on this essential foundation of that have grown for decades, tapping into moisture far below the surface, making them nearly invincible to the short-term whims of the weather. You are now equipped with the single to building that same kind of resilient, beautiful garden for yourself. It's a technique that costs nothing to implement, yet yields more significant results than the most expensive fertilizers or tools. It's not about working harder. It's about working smarter by aligning your efforts with the fundamental biological needs of your plants. It's time to change how you water. So put an end to the ineffective and ultimately harmful daily sprinkle. Instead, commit to the practice of deep watering. Check the soil, wait for it to dry, and then water thoroughly. When you do, you will watch your garden transform from a collection of fragile plants merely surviving to a vibrant, interconnected ecosystem that is under your newly enlightened care. This principle of deep watering is one of the biggest keys to success, but what other common gardening myths are holding you back from achieving the garden of your dreams? Are you tilling your soil every spring, adding gravel to the bottom of pots? Let me know your questions in the comments below. And be sure to follow for more secrets to help you become a better, more observant gardener.